Hi.
Good afternoon from the UK. As Blind has done me justice of introducing me, my name is Fog, and I regular to the channel, but the main reason I think I'm here today is just because of the Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 and OpenRCT have been kind of a big part of my gaming upbringing. Played from a young age and found the OpenRCT projects, I think, through Blind streams and all that kind of stuff. And since then, well, it's been OpenRCT and more construction games ready.
Cool.
So yeah.
So now we just kind of have a little order here. So we're just going to roll down with introductions, and we're going to roll into Ted, who's a IntelOrca. How are you doing today, friend?
Hello. Wow, nice to see everyone here. And I guess we'll get started by just having a bit of a status of our development. So we've been around for over 2.5 years now. We started in 2014, April, and since then we've had 176 different people contribute to the project. So thank you, all of those people. And that's making up just over 12,000 commits, which individual changes or code additions to the repository. So we're very close to releasing 0.1.0. That's quite a milestone, considering we've actually just been on 0.00 releases so far. Some other interesting stats, should I say, are 1,144 different source files that have been changed, 595,193 line insertions, and 253,054 line deletions. Isn't that nice to know?
So now we're just going to roll down with a couple more introductions real quick. So let's roll into Duncan. How you doing, friend?
All right. My name's Duncan. I'm also from the UK. I joined the project quite early on after seeing it advertised on Reddit. And I did a lot of the original implementation along with Ted. And now I've taken a bit more of a backseat, especially recently. I've been very busy. So I'll pass you on now.
Okay, so next in the list is Gymnasiast, and I'm probably still butchering your name. I'll get it right by the end of this, probably.
Well, just call me Michael.
Okay.
But well, hello from the Netherlands. Well, I joined the project in May 2014 after reading about it in a blog post on the Dutch website Tweakers. Well, Dutch people know what I'm talking about. Well, yeah, I started playing Rollercoaster Tycoon when I went in 2000. Never stopped. But after playing RCT2 for 10 minutes already, a few things were just annoying to me. Well, which is part of the reason I joined the project to do something about it, to make it better. I think we did it. We did it. There's plenty of stuff to do, really. But well, that's more or less the reason. I still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Also learned quite a lot about the C and about Git, and also collaborating with other people over the internet, which were all very useful and nice to do. It's really nice for the project. So handing over now to Kenton.
Krutonium. Hi. So I'm Kenton, or Krutonium. You can use whichever name. I joined the project quite a long way back. I can't remember the date. it doesn't really matter though.
I remember when you joined.
Well, but
It's rough days.
yeah. Anyway, I again, I was playing the game since basically I was a very young child. I played it with my mom actually a lot. Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and then later 2. I never stopped playing, and basically led to me one day discovering, oh my god, Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is a thing. How can I help? And so basically I've been hanging around the project ever since then, doing everything I can to help in any way I can. And yeah.
So next in the introductions list, we got Janisozaur. So.
Hi, my name is Michał. I joined the project at some point back, don't really remember when. I contribute to open source projects, especially game engines. I've contributed to few in the past. However, OpenRCT just had the right combination of not being ported to Linux just yet, had build community around it already, and there were still plenty of bugs, so I started contributing code. I was the person that ported it to Linux, and work that was spent on porting it to Linux also helped a whole lot porting it to then OS X, now Mac OS, and also very recently Android. I'm the person that tells you to file all the bug reports and provides crash dumps and saves. Yeah, that's me. And yeah, I'm from Poland.
And last but not least, I have no idea how to say your name, so...
Richard is fine. It's just an abbreviation of my initials with UK on the end. It's unpronounceable, so don't bother.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I don't know how to say this, yeah. So you're not...
So like XKCD.
We're going to have a crack, much easier.
It's not designed to be pronounceable. Hello, I am Richard. I'm from the UK. I am an IT consultant. I've done all sorts of jobs in IT, from managing an IT department to doing contract software development. I joined the project. My very first pull request was merged on the 27th of March this year, 5324, if I can go look it up. And I joined the core dev team a couple of months later, I believe.
Beginning of May.
Beginning of May, thanks. I have mostly concentrated on fixing bugs. I enjoy solving problems. I enjoy tracking things down and figuring out, aha, that's what is causing that. So that's what I've mostly been doing. Although recently I have implemented a couple of features as well. But yeah, if a new bug is reported, you can pretty much guarantee that I'm going to test it out and see if I can replicate it.
You're the fixer.
And yeah, pretty much. I like fixing things. It gives you a sense of satisfaction.
So right off the bat, we've had several questions of people asking us to explain what 0.1.0 means exactly. So Ted, did you want to take that one?
Okay. Well, given that the project has been around for over 2 years, it seems a bit silly to still be on 00.x releases. We've got to I don't want to say stable, because I know there's still some crashes and bugs and really annoying bugs that are still in the game, and sometimes they get reintroduced. But we thought, given that there are some major changes in this specific release, we'd up the minor version number just so that we actually do it eventually. We do have a roadmap planned, which we'll cover later.
All right.
But basically, major release in the grand scheme of things of what we've done so far.
It's kind of come far enough to warrant the major release rather than kind of the subversion numbers. Really, it's it's come a long way from the first kind of iterations of the project. So yeah,
it's kind of a way of officially announcing how far that you've come as a as a group of people working on a project, I think.
Oh yeah, I looked back at some old bugs that were solved in this iteration, but we'll come back to that later. But I saw what was talked about, for example, 2 years ago, and I thought, oh yes, we couldn't do that at the time, or we still had no Linux support at the time. So it's really, if you look back, we've come an enormous way. Yeah.
Yeah, as was already mentioned, the project drew quite a number of contributors. Some of them stuck around for a bit longer, and I think the special thanks should go to Matt, Zechmat. I'm not sure how to pronounce this username.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and I can read it.
Yeah, he stepped up recently as a very, very good contributor, fixing many of the desyncs, and today helping out with getting the stuff prepared for release. Broxzier, who's contributed Tile Inspector and height maps. He also did some other contributions. Nubi, who's our a person who inspects all the crash dumps that are posted and generally hangs around with us. Wolfreak, who made a lot of smaller changes and refactors everywhere, and Space Case Toast, who provides us with title sequences even on very tight schedule. So
yeah,
big thanks to all those guys.
He pulled an he actually pulled an all-nighter for that, which was
it's dedication.
I said to him, if something is not finished or really if it's not fit for release, we'll just delay it. We're not going to release it half finished. We're not a AAA gaming company. We're just a bunch of open source guys. So we will delay it if there's a need to. But he did anyway. With success. I'm not sure if we thanked the translators yet, but if we haven't, we should. We have about, I'm not sure how many, about 10 or perhaps somewhere, but they are usually very quick in providing us with translation. We have several languages which are complete. You can play OpenRCT2 in several languages, and it will be just as good as playing it in UK English. Some of them, for example, the Korean or the Czech translators have their fixes in half a day after the change is made. They have their translation half a day later already prepared. They're unbelievably quick. The Dutch translation is also almost always done, but I do that, so that's cheating a bit. But thanks to all the translators and also all the contributors. There were quite a few new ones compared to other cycles. With the last release was 0.7, and we had quite a few new ones, including Zemet, or however you pronounce it, who, as Michał said, fixed the desyncs. First-time contributor, but really made small change with a big impact. That was very nice.
Okay, so do we want to move on now from the special thanks and everything? And we have specific features mentioning the SDL2 backend separation. I have no idea what that means, but it's down for Ted and Michał. So.
Yeah. Okay. So this originated as my idea. Basically, we separate the program into two parts. One part is the logic, and then on top of that, we can apply various front ends, which is basically the piece with the windows and graphics, and that does the sounds. And the reason we do this is to help with testing, help with running the servers, and this will allow us also to use less memory. This is a part of the roadmap, basically, to gain separation from original assets. And the way we tried to do this is to also provide a library for other projects to use. So previously, all the trainers, all the external tools that you possibly may have used for vanilla game was, each of them had to be recoded from scratch. And with the library we have now, the tools could use this as a scaffolding to provide only the layer on top of that. And in fact, we have seen some other projects use our code, not the library just yet, but we're getting there.
That's actually interesting to me because I used to use 8 cars a number of years ago before I found the project, which is a old trainer.
Can I just say something
with the game? Go ahead.
Yeah, go.
So this is actually useful for server hosters because now you can host the server, host a OpenRCT2 instance on more lightweight servers because it doesn't require any OpenGL or graphics context. Therefore, you don't need any kind of dependencies on those. It's more useful for Linux servers, which require this early binding. But another thing that I've improved is reducing the memory footprint that servers use. So they used to take about 100 megabytes per instance, typically. Now we got that down to 10 megabytes, which is quite good.
Cool.
Nice, yeah.
That is nice.
I was just gonna kind of go off the back of the servers and then maybe come back to some of the talk about the original assets being replaced by new ones. So the changes to the servers, will that kind of make it a little bit easier to kind of for layman people, like I couldn't tell you how a server works, but for like the layman's in the community like myself, would that make it a little bit easier to kind of set that up, or just a little bit less taxing for the system that I run?
Not yet, I think. We're planning to do something to do something about the objects. Now you need to have a bunch of objects from Rollercoaster Tycoon 2. Everything in the OBJ data folder, all the vehicles and such. You already at the moment you need to have those, but we do plan to replace that. At which point you will be able to run a server without having the objects. You will only have references to them, but you don't need the actual objects anymore. And it's also the advantage that when that happens, it will be quite a lot easier to provide alternative imagery for those. So basically, if you have, for example, a looping roller coaster train, if that new object format comes through, someone can just create new artwork and it will
and
go
kind
up
of
in
new
case.
assets for it, really.
Yes, well, but it will be easier. Currently, you really need the actual object that was on your CD or Steam copy or GOG copy. Then you won't need that anymore. So that will be easier. It's because
it's kind of, oh, sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, but it will be a bit of time before that really gets practical. But for services, it can be immediately practical. You don't need the files anymore from the CD, so you can run it without owning a copy. And it will also be easier to replace some artwork already, because you could potentially also use the RCT1 artwork for a looping roller coaster train, or the RCT1 for some terrain. That will be possible, but not yet. We're working towards that.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so we've got lots of stability improvements, and it's tile inspector and multiplayer. We've got key-based authentication for multiplayer. So these are both labeled under janisozaur. So if you would like to take those.
Yep. So the tile inspector, as I mentioned earlier, was original addition by Broxier. He provided this, and it turned out this is a really good way, especially for new element designs people, to introduce hacked rides, hacked items into the parks that they create. And at some point, a new element embraced multiplayer. They hosted their own multiplayer server, and they created their very own park, Mirage Islands. And to create that, they requested from us to provide the tile inspector to multiplayer, and that was done mostly by Broxier again, with some minor contributions.
I just have to correct a bit. The original tile inspector was not made by Broxier, but it was a very bare bones. It only could inspect tiles, so you can only see what was on the tile. All the manipulation stuff of removing, raising, lowering, everything that makes it useful for NA designs and most people, that was added by Broxier. Just slight correction.
Yeah, okay. Then the manipulation part of the tile inspector was added by him, and later on he improved the design to be multiplayer ready. So big kudos to him for that.
Yeah.
And the other part that was already mentioned, key-based authentication in multiplayer, is actually quite a long time since that was introduced. However, it was introduced after our latest stream. So this is the system that uses asymmetric cryptography, basically RSA key-based authentication, to ensure that the players are identified reliably and information about them is stored on the servers. So this is the piece that allows you to disconnect and reconnect and still have the same group assigned. Perhaps you may remember when we first introduced multiplayer. Every time you joined the server, you had to request access, and a big issue was with people trying to impose as someone else.
Or me getting DDoSed.
Yeah.
Twice in 1 week. Yeah, no, it's actually kind of interesting. If you go to my YouTube channel, I have footage from the first time I streamed multiplayer about a month after it was implemented. That video's got like 10,000 views now, and it's kind of scary because it keeps getting hits, but multiplayer has improved a lot since it was first created.
So also the reason we know actually about the bugs and the places, the pain points of multiplayer is mostly because of Blind's Monday streams. So shouts outs to Blind for hosting them, as without them the multiplayer wouldn't be what it is now. Perhaps not all of you play, but the features from multiplayer actually have far-reaching effects back to the core of the logic that we do, and it improves overall code in the game.
Cool. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I was just going to say the kind of multiplayer service and the multiplayer Monday stuff that BlindiRL does, it kind of just gets some more rise towards the projects, and more rise will mean more people who can potentially troubleshoot the current build to help additional builds become more stable, and also kind of weed out the bugs.
I mean,
Yeah.
I see new people almost every week. Just a handful of new people almost every week. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, what is always nice about having a stream of it as well is you can actually watch exactly what you did to make it crash, or see how you did it. So we've got recorded evidence of the bug happening, and it makes it much easier to reproduce. And once you know how to reproduce it, it's so much easier to solve the actual bug.
Agreed. Half of fixing a bug is being able to replicate it reliably.
Yeah,
That's three quarters, I would say. More like we have tens of dozens of bugs in the tracker that we believe it's a bug, but or at least the person who filed the issue believes it's a bug, but we can't get anywhere without really reproducing it reliably. If you get investigate on your issue, that's usually sign it's going to take a bit longer, at least until it's the circumstances and the reproduction is very clear.
Oh, yeah, it helps.
So just to give you a sense of the effects the multiplayer has on the game, it would be exactly the same code that does multiplayer to be able to record the park as you build it and then replay that. So if you have a mechanism that allows you to both record and replay, other than some people actually would enjoy that, for us developers, this would be a really big feature, a big step up in terms of reproducing all the bugs that you report to us, because it would make them so much more easy to reproduce. Right now we have like 610 open issues on the project. Some of them are bugs, some are feature requests. I'd say perhaps maybe half of them are bugs, and many of them are not ever going to be solved properly because we don't really know what caused them to happen, and because we cannot trigger them after all the refactorings, after all the new code that went in, we sometimes just have to close them and say that so much code has changed that it's basically impossible for this thing that caused a bug to be in the code anymore.
It's a case of.
We also usually say then, if you still get this bug, then please let us know. But in way too many cases, the original person has pretty much abandoned it, which also doesn't help. That happens more than you'd expect. You expect people to really care about getting their bug fixed, but there's sometimes it's really hard to get anything out of them beyond the original issue that they filed.
Yeah, cool.
So next thing we've got in here is the Cutaway view with a link to the Reddit thread from when it was posted, as well as a YouTube video. So who wants to cover that?
I could from a layman's view.
Yeah.
So essentially the Cutaway view is the best way that I could describe it as a layman looking in is essentially if you were to take like slices away of the scenery that you're working on, because Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 has always and Rollercoaster Tycoon 1 for that matter, they work in this isometric view. Now sometimes that causes problems where you might be building on a certain layer and then you kind of look at it from a different perspective and it's completely different as to what you expected. Another one is actually putting items under items and wanting them to be in the right orientation, the right locations. The Cutaway view essentially gives you the ability to seemingly remove all of the scenery on top and allow you to work on the lower level and then reveal the scenery that you had removed without actually deleting it. Is that kind of a good representation from a layman's version, guys?
Yeah, so yeah,
I think so.
You could sort of compare it with The Sims if you ever play that. You can stand the view as the whole house, including the roof, and you can you click once, the roof is gone. You click again. There's another story that's hidden, and so you can see everything. That's if it wasn't clear already, because I think you explained it well, then I hope it is now.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. The next thing we've got here on our list is the RCT1 import, which is under Michael. And I actually don't even know what this is. This is the first I'm hearing of
I'm
this.
kind of excited.
Go
for this
ahead.
as well.
Seriously?
Okay,
Wow.
well, it's if I'm not sure, most people who played both Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 know that 2 changed well, quite a bit, and Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 cannot open. Well, it can open some Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 files. You can import most of your track designs. You can import your saves as a landscape in the scenario editor, which means that you will lose all the guests and rides and stuff and lots of other things, but you can at least import the landscape, the paths, and the scenery. For OpenRCT2, we extended it vastly. Ted did basically the foundation. He did the initial import code that was did with broad brush. It did if you had an import, it lacked quite a lot. So I did basically the rest. I could fill in all the gaps. So what we ended up with was that you could load up a save from Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 in OpenRCT2, and it would show as much as we can be within the constraints of Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. It would show up more or less as was intended. It had the roller coasters intact with the vehicles at exactly the place where you left it, with all the guests where you left them, the ducks, and all the vomit, which is, I think, the most important part.
Gotta have that vomit.
Yep.
Yeah, yes, you gotta have that, and the ducks, of course. I also did some things about the importing tracks, because it didn't always work. There's also the thing with the junior roller coaster was you had a very versatile Steam mini roller coaster in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1. In 2, it was split into the junior coaster and the mini roller coaster. And people who played Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 have no problem with it. People who played Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 before it are up in arms about it. They never got over it. It was done for good reasons, for realism, but well, we support the all behavior anyway. You can now just import them. There's also finally one thing that's often complained about, that you cannot switch vehicles in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 most of the time. You pick a vintage cars, you build one, and you think, oh, rather I didn't want vintage cars. I rather have Cheshire Cats or race cars, and then sports cars, one of
or
those.
swans,
and then you find out, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
or an elevator.
That's another thing.
Observation
Or
time.
monorail.
Yeah, that's also possibly a hack, but let's not go. In any case, you found that you wanted to change that, and you couldn't, because for some unfathomable reason, Chris Sawyer decided that you didn't need that option. In some cases, it made sense. For things that were not really the same kind of coaster. The hyper coaster and corkscrew spring to mind. Those were not really the same kind of coaster. One had loops and corkscrews, and the other hadn't. It was quite high, so it made sense in that case. Well, this release, we introduced a hack in 2014 to be able to switch. It wasn't quite perfect. It was bug ridden. I'm still surprised that that actually accepted it to the game, because he wouldn't today, and nor would I. But well, he accepted it anyway. But I did quite some extensive rework on it. So it basically boils down to if you use now, you can change the vehicles in place where it makes sense, and you cannot in place where it doesn't. So put in layman's terms, you can more or less now play it as it was in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1. You don't need to pick the cars beforehand. You can switch afterwards.
There was recently a new park released on new element designs, Muscat, and people there said that, well, we're still far off because RCT1 had codex tool, which allowed park makers to hack a park quite a lot, and not all the features are available in OpenRCT2, at least until we switch to the next format.
Awesome.
I'm not sure what.
So,
I'm not sure what Codex really offers, because I've never used it. I implemented quite a lot of 8 cars per trainers features precisely because I used it and I know what it was good for. There are not many that we lack. I think we also did some from Son of Beast trainer, but I don't think any of us has any experience with Codex, which doesn't help. It's completely, but well, I doubt there's anything that we couldn't implement easily if we want to.
Or eventually with enough time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it would help if there were some people in the NE crowd that had, I think there was
development background, yeah.
Some, but there weren't that many who actually contributed to OpenRCT2. I find myself explaining quite a lot of things that I have said numerous times on those forums, because I think we frequent them more than they do us, with exceptions, by the way. I'm in a dangerous territory, I hear, but because I'm about to tread on many toes. But well,
a lot of people have specific preferences over things they like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's by the way a very good exercise working with the NE crowd, because they were they set a high standard, and it was quite nice to work with that. They will only use our tool if they only started using OpenRCT2 when it really had many advantages to them, which it set the bar for us nice and high. We had something to aim at, and well, considering they use it now quite a lot, I think means that we achieve that.
Yeah, it could be deemed as a success to some extent.
Yes, I think it's part of it, because we also find out many bugs or behavior. The parks are always
a day doesn't go by without new element park getting bugs.
The parks are both hacked and corrupted beyond recognition. It's I'm always surprised they actually work in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, because they found, over the years they found so many things, so many ways to exploit RCT1 and RCT2. To do things that were never intended with it.
Just as an example, for one of the bugs which Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 does for hiding elements, which is used extensively on any maps, is they corrupt the memory element by giving it an ID which it shouldn't have, and the way the code works is. It takes that ID and looks it up on a table, but the table's too small for that ID because it's corrupt. So it jumps to the next thing which is available, which just so happens to be a bit of code which says, I don't really care, return. And so because it does that, it hides everything. But if it was jumping to any other bit of code of the whole thing, it would just completely crash the game. But they just managed to find the right number to put on their map element for it to work.
Yeah, and I remember that that was very early in the project. That's one of those parks. It would show they had Cutaway the station or something, and it would show up. And well, I was completely unaware of the hack at the time. I didn't know it was possible, and that was only one of many ways they found it. It's also as Michał said, every other day we get a park. Well, and they say it crashes or it glitches, and you find out, well, it does all sorts of things that it is corrupted in a way that somehow does not crash Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, which is quite easy to do, really.
And yeah, quite impressive.
Well, no, not usually in a good way, just in a way that doesn't happen to cause, but those are very, very implementation dependent.
So can I just nudge in here for a second? From my point of view, it looks like our friends over at New Element have just created a Frankenstein's monster by just like stabbing things into the game to make it work, and you guys are just like, let's just rebuild the whole game and just make it work natively.
Well,
that's
just
about right.
Let's kind of give you a version that works on our end, kind of thing. It's the
problem
equivalent.
is the compatibility, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, what they did is many things are not intended, but just happen to get corrupted along the way, because they do unspeakable evil to the SV6 format. So, but in some cases we did what. If you implement code, I mean, we implemented all the bits from Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, and you can basically do two things. Implement exactly what it does, or implement what it, with any common sense, should be doing. And there are also usually two ways to do something that would, under any normal or even slightly abnormal circumstance, produce the same result. But then you have the NE crowd that does all things that were never intended, and does happen to hinge on one specific detail that Rollercoaster does in a certain way, and well, we then have to find a way to replicate it. In the case of that corrupt element that hid everything above it, that was easy. Just check for that exact number. And then just tell the program to not draw anything above that. So that was easy. Some other things are sometimes slightly harder. But
quite commonly, it's not only when we read or render a park, but we also have to have ways of introducing such hacks in a sane way. Not to have to rely on an external program or modifying the exported park with an external tool.
Like with the tile editor, where we've added it, we kept the feature to insert a corrupt element to hide other elements. That was put in the tile editor to replicate the bug behavior of RCT2 in a sane way.
Yeah, but there's also more or less same. There's also the point that although external tools like the SV6 editor or Save Game Modifier or some other tools or like ParkDot, they still work, but the trainers don't. The trainers were completely dependent on how Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 was implemented, and if you had a, say, European version instead of the US version, there was a chance that not every function would work, because it would try to modify stuff that was at a certain place in the US version, but not in the EU version. So we had to build in several features ourselves that used to be handled by trainers, because there was no other way, really. So it was like adding money or, almost everything really had to be done. But it's good, because we can now indeed do it in the correct way.
That was interesting. We started on the RCT1 import, and that went on for like 25 minutes. Just to pull us back to our list here, under Ted's name, we've got Scenery Eyedropper.
Okay, well, I spent most of this release doing the SDL2 separation. But one day I must have got bored of doing that and decided to implement a small feature, which was the Scenery Eyedropper. I'm told it was a warmly welcomed feature. I'm sure a lot of people find it useful.
The day that got implemented, there was a lot of happy screaming.
The scenery window, is not the most user-friendly interface. I mean, you have limited number of tabs, and most objects probably end up in the miscellaneous section. So the eyedropper, quick and easy, select whatever you need from the map itself, and you got the same colors, same item, same orientation.
Yeah, I'd probably say that's also one of the best features, to be honest, that has been implemented by you guys lately. Because when you're just building even a building, and you think, what on earth wall is that, and what color is that? Rather than trying to replicate that through as maybe like 32 walls or something like that you have there, thinking, okay, it's kind of that color, and maybe remember that. You can just go, yeah, I need that little bit, and then just, yeah. so convenient for continuing building, and just a really nice ease of use. And
it's also so a bit funny to see which features which features took the most effort to do, and which features are usually resonate best with the wider community versus what resonate best with the NE crowd, because it's sometimes very small things. I remember the scenery window had a limit of 128 objects per tab. Which under normal circumstances is enough, but those parks tend to have lots of objects on the miscellaneous tab. They usually don't have many themed groups. They just plonked it all in, and they missed objects. It was just really just modifying a few numbers anywhere to make it count to 255 instead of 127 or something. It was just a few little changes, but they made. They made a difference.
A world of difference, yeah.
Yeah, well, it made difference for people who couldn't access objects before, and they now could, which, is nice if you're trying to create a park. Or something that Ted made these, I think it was Ted made this scenery scatter tool available. So you click the button and it will place a cluster of trees instead of just one, which used to be only available in the scenario ads, and it was just a small change, which I also think made life easier.
Yeah, it made it easier.
And sandbox mode. I originally did that during the first podcast, which I wasn't in. I was busy programming sandbox mode back then. It wasn't also not particularly difficult to do. I knew very little about C back then, but that made a difference as well. You could suddenly build outside your border. You could change all the land rights during normal game, which also made a difference. So big changes like the objective selection. I'm not sure if that was available 1.5 years ago in the last podcast.
That's been around for quite a while.
You had to find it manually. I remember pulling rides manually into my single-player parks a couple of years ago, just using the command line, using object selection. But that was a while ago. Okay.
Yeah, but I do remember that it wasn't. I didn't implement that. I do remember it wasn't. It wasn't particularly easy, I believe. But that's, I think, a function that I use a lot personally. It's just with all those features like the object selection and the event list available in game, some of the cheats, the sandbox mode, and changes to the scenery window together really make. I think that really made the biggest difference. So you don't need to think wisely about your object selection before you start, or have to fiddle with park that. Now you can just edit every single thing on the fly. So yeah, it also means that we now see fewer bugs reported for the scenario editor because there was really less need to. There were 2 bugs that were in the game for months and nobody noticed them until I did. I had to test something and I quickly created a scenario for it, and I said, "Hey, this box doesn't work." I checked the code. Yeah, it was, and it was. I fixed it just at the end of last month, perhaps a week ago. It was introduced in February, and nobody had ever noticed, or at least reported it.
Speaking of bugs that nobody ever noticed, I'm quite surprised that New Element Designs didn't notice that there was a bug ever since the project started that caused invalid rendering. It was fixed a while ago and was reported back to us as invalid because it's changed. It affected water rendering and was reverted and then redone properly. So it's all fixed now.
The thing was, it wasn't reported because it was only visible at higher zoom levels, and it sort of drew it differently. I wouldn't say it was really,
the kind of attention to detail New Elements does.
Yes, well, yeah. I'll give you that. All right.
Maybe they just don't submit bug reports.
That's something that some of them do report, but I also frequently see someone mentioning some bugs on somewhere on the forums, and they have reports. So if you're watching it, report those bugs on GitHub.
Please.
Yes, with steps to reproduce. And if you have a bug you do not want to share because it's not finished, then we'll arrange something. Send us in a private message on any designs or something. But at least report it to us.
We will have you sign the NDA and we can work in private.
No, we did get a park, that musket park that I don't know who was talking about.
Yes.
We got that actually 5 months before it was released because there were bugs in the RCT1 import. We didn't tell anyone. We didn't show it to anyone because that would be a dick move. But that's it also shows how much work goes into it.
You need a disclaimer that says essentially that the developers of OpenRCT acknowledge that some of the information you're sharing is private, and they will not share or leak out any personal information on your parts.
No, we don't. We set the rules. We don't need a disclaimer. This is a dictatorship, not a democracy.
Okay.
So
I'm just thinking like an asterisk with a disclaimer. That's all that you need.
Is that going on the box art, by the way?
Park Builders Anonymous.
No, it's I mean, if you have to resort to that, I think people should just be able to trust us even without the red tape or something. We won't share your park. Period. That's as simple as it is. If you don't want to make the park public, you don't, and we won't. That's up to you, and I think that's quite a big thing for any crowd.
Yeah, just make sure to let us know when you're reporting it.
Yeah.
And send it to us some way that isn't public. Like, don't put it on the GitHub issue because that is public. Just send it to us some other way.
And just to kind of bookend the whole kind of bug reporting process, it's think of that one thing that is bothering you right now in Roller Coaster Tycoon that's in a bug form. You not reporting that bug is causing that bug to still be there, you silly goose. So you kind of need you need to be proactive and sort that out, I would say.
Yeah, you need to be. But it's not that much effort from the bug reporter side, I would say. Just open one and think of what do I need to click to trigger this bug. That's really, if you can provide that, and also be ready if we ask questions. And just we have if you open an issue, it will just show you a template with fields you can fill in. If you just follow that, there's nothing that can go wrong. Unfortunately, some people do not bother at all filling it in, or just remove the entire template and just say they have a problem. Well, if you're going to that route, please don't. You're too far away to smack, but I would certainly do it if you were next to me.
Let's not threaten physical violence on this show. Come on.
No.
I think I just have. No, but seriously, just follow what's on the screen. It's not difficult, and it makes your life and our life so much easier.
Yeah, and it will get sorted, and just those kind of entries. So Speaking of entries, guys, just moving on to the next point. We have Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is now an entry on Giant Bomb.
Yeah, no, it totally is. And for anyone watching this that doesn't know what that means that if you are streaming Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 on Twitch, it's actually its own category now. You don't have to stream under Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 anymore. You can actually stream under the actual game.
Can I ping a problem with that from my point of view?
Okay.
People who don't know that OpenRCT exists aren't going to look for OpenRCT. Which is why a couple of times I've been tempted to stream under RCT Classic to see how many people land on me. Which is the phone game. So
yeah,
it's a concern for visibility as a broadcaster.
Yes, it is right now, but consider the project in a few years' time when we have our own graphics sets and features that were so distant from the vanilla game that you couldn't really imagine them. At that point, OpenRCT2 would be its very own project, and if you discovered the project then, you would want to stream under OpenRCT2, not Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. So I guess that's perhaps a start of a gradual change that will maybe at some point lead to OpenRCT2 being a sort of more proper category on Twitch. But
it's also something of a
it's also
something of a chicken and egg issue in that you don't want to switch because people won't know to look for it and people won't find it. And I completely understand that. But also, if people don't switch, then it won't start to gain traction. I'm not entirely sure how the searching on Twitch works. So it could be, I'm talking a bit out of my field here. But if people do start to switch, then it will gain traction and people might start to get noticed more. But I understand that it's always difficult to make that leap initially because you want to have maximum visibility for what you're broadcasting and things like that. So I do understand that. But I think that will happen in time organically. Well, I hope it will happen in time organically. We'll see.
Yeah, it will kind of need its forerunners, really. So, like the people who start to actually adopt the OpenRCT tag will kind of be the ones to drive more people to that. And as you were saying earlier, the way that it will kind of become more used and more kind of necessary is when it starts to get all these new graphic assets and all this new kind of content that differentiates it from the other games. So it gets to the point you're looking at one and looking at the other and it's just rather disparate. And kind of moving into that kind of graphic stuff, you guys have started looking into open graphics, is that right?
Yes and no.
Probably a bad throw, but
so yes, there is a project called Open Graphics. It was started a while ago, but there isn't much content just yet, which is understandable because just of the sheer volume and complexity of the assets that are required. And every now and then, people keep posting. Even I think today or earlier this week, someone posted on Reddit about the impossibility of figuring out the light perspective
for each piece and each of the kind of directions that you have in the isometric view, or
because the sprites were modeled in 3D and then pre-rendered for the game, and there is a very specific lighting settings that have to be matched to not disrupt the visual experience.
Yeah,
and nobody has achieved that.
Would you say?
Yeah,
and
it's coming
it's,
from a certain side or corner.
15 years later on, and numerous people have tried, and nobody has done that yet.
Yeah. So maybe it is a case that we kind of need to get all of the people together and say, well, this is kind of how they did it previously. Like you mentioned Chris Sawyer using the pre-renders. of the 3D stuff. I think that's on his website. Like, it's an interesting read to have a look through because you see all this detail that's then crushed into those pieces. Kind of to end to kind of bookend the point, it is a case that we might need to turn around to all these people who have created this scenery or are continuing to create scenery. We've had some new stuff, and get them together and say, this is kind of how it was done. Maybe you could look at this and say, okay, that's kind of the level and the agreement, really.
If you're talking about how it was made, the original creator of the roller coaster Tycoon sprite has explained something of it, and yeah, it could probably he has done a video about it. He's also contactable. So that it's there will be a possibility to just ask him, or try to contact anyone who has managed to get the lighting right. But he appears to be he appears to be quite approachable. Chris Sawyer is very. You cannot contact Chris Sawyer except through his representative.
I've tried.
Still after all this. What?
I tried to get an AMA with him about 1.5 years ago, maybe a little more now. But yeah, around the time
apparently
RCT Classic was announced, or no, when Transport Tycoon Transport Tycoon Mobile was announced.
Yeah,
I reached out to try and get an AMA. It didn't happen. He's
he apparently very much values his privacy, which is which fine, I guess. It's
fine.
But no, Simon Foster is quite a lot more approachable. So we cannot use the original sprite directory or something, but we can just ask a few questions to it, or a lot of questions probably. But that's something we'll figure out. It's probably actually creating all those models, finding the people who can, because that's something we have noticed. There's no shortage of developers, but people who can actually create these models and can create replacement music or sound effects. That's the problem.
I know that there's a few people beginning to work on asset design for RCT through my stream. Recently, the AC unit that came out was made by Arbitrary, who's one of my subscribers. He's started to get into making assets. I think as far as custom graphics goes, it'll happen eventually, but it's just going to take time. At some point, you'll just find the right person with the right brand of crazy who's just going to go and redo everything. You know?
Yeah, and if there is an open graphics set eventually, you don't really have to worry about matching the original assets exactly in terms of lighting, because you only have to match your surrounds. But if you don't use those assets, then you're free to use whatever lighting you want to.
Okay.
It will, as I said, it will also be easier to just change the assets for the view object when our new object format comes along.
Awesome.
But well, really, the assets itself, that's really going to be a big job. I guess if that project took off, I think that might even be the hardest part, because OpenRCT2 also managed. Those are quite and there's an order of a magnitude fewer sprites in Transport Tycoon, but still they actually set up a project which they finished, and the similar project for OpenRCT2 has not even really actually started. They've done some things. It's a matter of finding the people who can do it and are not busy and are willing, which I guess they are, but we haven't yet have them here.
Yeah, cool.
So I think we should continue down our lovely little list here. Got a thing that just starts off with, well, number one, a lot of people are editing their document right now, so I don't know what's happening. But many old bugs are fixed. Let's just continue moving on.
Yep. We've got a few of the more interesting ones, because we fixed a lot of bugs since the last developer stream was done, but we want to just go through some of the more interesting ones. One of the more, should we say, famous bugs from RCT2, I'm not sure that it was actually in RCT1, whether it was just 2, but certainly in 2, was that you could make infinite money using the swamp goo object by stacking them under a roller coaster, saving the track design, placing it. It would place lots of sort of ghost objects, which you could then delete. Ghosts are the white objects that appear when you're about to place something. You could then delete and get a load of money. Under certain circumstances, it could also crash the game, so it's probably best that the bug has been fixed. But that is also notable because it's the oldest bug that we had at the time. It was from, I'm not sure when it was reported, but it was early in the project, and we fixed that about a month ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. So yeah, if you like to rely on that, unfortunately you can't anymore. But then we've got the cheats menu, so you can do whatever you want.
That was actually solved by one of the new contributors who just out of the blue came with the fix, and was good. We also did some other old bugs, like there was some if you had in Wacky Worlds, you had a crocodile log flume that could only have 5 boats. Turned out to be they just said the field they should never. Basically, they did something technical they shouldn't have done and never noticed it. But then Wacky Worlds and Time Twist never went to QA as far as as you can see. They're riddled with bugs. We solved many of them actually, many descriptions, and also. But anyway, you can also now use that one with several boats. Well, the 2 bugs in the scenario editor were also fixed. I mentioned them.
Yeah, we mentioned them.
And I did mention that 2 bugs in the scenario editor that were in the game for months and nobody noticed.
Yeah,
There was another one that was also very interesting, where if you came to the edge of the map, the terrain would be completely corrupted. It would all kind of interesting things, which turn out to be there's an outer layer of invisible tiles around the map.
It was rare, but when it happened, it was you would know. You'd be sitting there going, "What is going on?" But yeah, it won't happen anymore. Fixed.
Yeah. If I recall, and I'm thinking of the right one, it kind of looked like the 80s effects where you would kind of point a camera into the other camera and get like a whole bunch of artifacting and going into the distance kind of thing. Is that the right one I'm thinking of, or something else?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess since last stream, we also added support for many more platforms. Some of them were short-lived and one-off. Right now, we have merged support for Android. Unfortunately, this is not the RCT Classic sort of support. We only provide the builds that are OpenRCT as on your desktop, but running on Android. So we still have loads to do on the UI part. We merged support for Open and FreeBSD. There was a very short-lived support for Wii. However, this also has some far-fetching consequences for the project, because we can use various other platforms to ensure our code is
there's
portable.
Almost a point where you're like, what's the point of that, though?
But
there wasn't really support. It was just someone working on it.
Yeah.
I'll put it
really in our code.
I'll put it this way: I'm looking forward to the Commodore 64 port.
So
that's
Canton has a G4 Power Mac, and we aim to support that.
PowerBook G4. Probably under Linux, probably not under Mac OS, mostly just because of the compilers. That's all there is to it.
Cool.
Yeah, and we test with various other open source projects. We actually did impact some other projects with OpenRCT. We tested things on various platforms. Yeah, Android is the most recent addition, and we will probably work on that, but there are other more important things to work on.
Cool.
Didn't the person that was implementing Open Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, I think on FreeBSD, find a bug in FreeBSD because
it was OpenBSD.
in the CMake implementation.
Or OpenBSD. Yeah,
It was OpenBSD,
something to do with their C implementation.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and as we already mentioned on new element designs, there were new elements embraced OpenRCT to the point where there are now OpenRCT only releases. There aren't very many of them actually. There aren't many of them. They don't have their own category, but there are at least some parks that are OpenRCT2 only.
It's kind of getting to the point that it needs to be standalone because of some of the features and the elements in it, right?
And just some of the features working completely differently.
Yeah, and it also, because people on New Element want to collaborate when they work on parks, and the multiplayer feature is actually so we hear they use it.
I see those servers pop up sometimes. It's like NE private game, so username, private passworded. And 2 people on it. And I see those quite frequently. So
you do occasionally have kind of like the open servers that you will struggle to get permissions to build, and just go in there and just marvel at some of the crazy stuff that they've managed to get away with.
Yeah, there's some really interesting communities kind of appearing from the multiplayer, but that was already covered kind of. Where are we at here? Any designs has embraced multiplayer. Game now reports missing objects when loading saves and scenarios.
It does indeed. Yeah, that's the feature that I added in quite recently, because as you know, if you try to open a park and you don't have all the custom objects for it, unless those objects are packed into the save game, it won't load. Previously, you would get a somewhat cryptic message pop up on the title screen saying unable to load game, and you wouldn't really know why. And even if you figured out why, it wouldn't have told you which objects that you were missing. And now, as is being displayed, you get a nice window that displays the object name and what type of object it is. And there are 2 buttons down the bottom where you can copy the selected item or all of them to the clipboard, so you can go search for them and find them wherever it might be. I actually used that earlier today because someone who reported an issue didn't supply the objects, and I was able to load up the park, click copy entire list to clipboard and paste the list and say, can you let me have these objects? And it was so much easier than having to go through, because before they were printed to the command line.
No one looks at the command line.
They were logged to the command line, but it's far easier to display them as a window. So yeah, it's just, that's a nice user,
a nice
interface improvement.
So would you get to the point that, would it get to the point where it's a little similar to, I don't know how many people do video editing here, but if you don't have like the source footage or the source media, it will say, where is this stuff, by the way? And then you can look into that and say, well, this is here, this is there. You can reroute it. Is that kind of
no.
Long term? Possibly, but what we certainly are going to look at implementing is a way to perhaps strip out those objects from a park so you can load it without them. I mean, there's no guarantee of what it would look like in that state, but if you just want to load it for testing, you'll be able to do that. Or perhaps replace one object with another. Those are longer term goals that need to be discussed and hashed out properly. But we certainly want to do more with this kind of feature to make life easier for users. Yes.
Yeah, currently it just expects you to put the missing objects into your own objects folder. So if you do that, you can load the game. But there's not yet an easy way to say, oh, they reside there on a random folder on my hard disk. Not yet.
Cool. So that's been nicely covered, I think. Visual corruption bug. Richard and Kenton. What?
That was a big one.
Yep, Kenton, I think you discovered that first, didn't you? You, while playing multiplayer, you found this oddity.
Yeah. So I was running. I run a server occasionally off of my web server that's in my basement. Usually just for myself to screw around on, maybe a friend. And I was playing it, and for some reason, all the sprites for the roller coasters were getting messed up. And
they were sort of blinking in and out of existence and not displaying on corners, and it was weird.
Yeah, like you'd have to move the screen completely off the coaster for the location of the ride to actually change. So the coaster would be running, but you couldn't see it.
And it was bizarre because it didn't happen every time. We spent a while trying to track down what actually caused it, and we were sitting there for about a couple of hours thinking, well, what's going on? What is this? Where is this bug?
Yeah.
And you eventually found that if you connected to your server, built something, disconnected, and then reconnected, there you go. It would happen straight away. I think that's how we boiled it down to, wasn't it?
Yeah, we nailed it down to something was happening when the server was exporting, or that's what we believed at the time, at least. And then the thing was, though, that then I went on other servers, and most of the servers online weren't exhibiting the bug that were on the same version. That took us a while to figure out, too.
And we eventually found out that only headless servers were exhibiting the bug. So it's something to do with what headless servers do differently to full fat servers, as it were. And eventually we figured out that it was the headless servers weren't loading the sprite sizes correctly. So the sprite sizes were getting set to 0, so the game didn't know what size the sprite should be. So it just they didn't display properly. A fix went in for that recently, so that won't happen again. And we just reload the sprite size, double check that are these sprites all correctly sized. If not, recheck them, and there you go. And any park set, if you have a park that is exhibiting this bug, load it with the latest version, and it will self-correct. It will be sanitized on input.
I was just about to say that was due to that was a regression from the optimization in turning the servers from 100 megabytes to 10.
I wasn't going to mention that. You'd have got away with that.
Yeah, we weren't going to say that.
I think these things crop in. Optimizations are a leading cause of regressions.
Bugs happen when people write code. You can't avoid them.
Well, yeah, pretty much. You write code, there's going to be a bug.
You fix one thing, you break another. Okay,
well, not always, but most of the time.
Okay, so we've got a. Go ahead.
Oh yes, I understand. If you ever run into a bug, first thing to do is try updating the game, even if just an hour ago. Frequently, it's already fixed in quite a short time. If it is still there after a week now, well, then report it.
There was one time when I started playing multiplayer on Monday. And then Janisozaur comes into my chat and is like, yo, go back one version because we broke it.
I recall that. I recall that stream.
That was frustrating. Anyways,
that was funny.
For you. We've got future plans down here with a little bit of a roadmap for Michal.
Yeah, so we're basically done discussing the features that we've implemented, and we have some plans for future. We actually, for the first time ever, we have a roadmap. This is big. Hooray! Because we know what we are working towards. So that's both good for both us and our users. This is on our wiki. We totally do not make any promises to stick to that, but yeah, we'll try.
That's what we're trying.
yeah, it's kind of a direction you're looking to take the project in, and maybe
What actually happens, who knows?
well, yeah. So you might need to pop off to the roadmap services maybe just to work on a couple other things, and then you'll get back onto the roadmap, and you'll be all better and better because of it, I would say.
Yeah, who knows? We could release 0.3 before we're done 0.2.
Could that actually happen? I'm just thinking about that.
Well, 0.3 is basically just for the JavaScript scripting. 0.2 is the JavaScript scripting. 0.3 is just the new object format. So those could happen out of order.
Yeah.
Theoretically, they could.
Reddit. Just swap those two around and go on.
All right.
Depends on what's easy to work on first and what we want to implement first. But I mean, because one doesn't depend on the other there. So.
There's yard work happening outside. I hope you guys don't end up hearing that. Otherwise, I'll have to go close my door. Okay, so let's just move on here.
Yeah, for multiplayer, a feature that I long wanted to implement is per client zero clearance. I've actually tried doing that once, but that was rejected as too complex, over the top, and it tried to support way too many scenarios that weren't required, and a much simpler fix was agreed upon, and I never got around to implement that because of all the other things that I wanted to work on.
If that doesn't ever get implemented, then I still might have to make a ZC please emote.
Yeah, I think Blind might be making a few cartwheels for joy when that does kind of go up, if it does, because there have been a few moments that kind of people who have popped into his multiplayer stream, it's like, are you done with zero clearance? Because I would like to get back to building.
Or what is zero clearance? How does this work with newer players? It's a nightmare. Okay,
it's a can of worms. Yes. Yeah. Even if you the bugs are already, even if it didn't have bugs, then it would have been enough of a can of worms. But there's so many things that only go wrong if you have it on. Yeah.
Paths randomly disconnecting from each other, for example. I don't know if that's still a bug, but it was at one point.
Oh, there's probably still a bug with that. One of the other things is the fact that everyone calls it zero clearance, even though we call it disable clearance of the code. Now, zero clearance is the name of the 8 cars version, and there are a lot of bugs related to the 8 cars zero clearance. And if you put it in a report saying there's an issue with the zero clearance, I'm like, 8 cars. Then I go load it. God damn it! No.
There's by the way difference in implementation, because what 8 cars was quite literally set all clearances to 0. It made everything completely flat. What we do is just not check if something is in the way, which causes fewer problems. You don't need to you're not actually modifying any object during that.
So you're kind of making it turn a little bit of a blind eye. So maybe it should be kind of called bribe clearance, Just look that way for a little bit while I kind of do
reality.
this.
Yeah.
Bribe the clearance system. I like that.
Yeah.
And don't let the inspector anywhere near this.
Alrighty. Moving on. We got a thing that just says more tests. What is this about?
Yeah. We have integrated some tests. They are very, very basic, very rudimentary, but as we mentioned at the start of the stream, we separated some part of the logic from UI, and this will allow us for adding some more tests, and we want to implement more so that we have much lower chance of introducing a game-breaking bug that goes undetected for a while, for a few days, and to prevent it from doing any harm, because some kinds of bugs could affect the exported items, and that's the last thing we want to do. So we would really like to have more tests.
Cool.
Yeah.
So next we've got scripting engine, Ted.
Okay, so this is what I plan to implement for our next major release, I suppose, 0.2. So one of the difficult things about running an open source project is that you get a lot of contributions, a lot of people wanting to add a feature, and it's very difficult to know whether you should really put it in the game or not, because some people may like it, some people might find it's clutter, and it doesn't really need to be in the main game.
No such thing.
So most software deals with this problem through extensibility or a plugin system, where the main product supplies an API, which then anyone can go and use and add extra features to the game from the outside. What I plan to do is, and what I've already prototyped, is the inbuilt scripting engine. So this will allow you to actually write a JavaScript and import that into the game. And the JavaScript can do all sorts of things like set various variables in the game, such as how much money you have, do complicated things such as adding a whole new window. One feature, well, a lot of times we get asked for extra keyboard shortcuts. So that's the kind of example of what the scripting engine could allow. You could add your own key bindings to do whatever you like.
You could add a key that just builds a particular ride.
Exactly. It could be as balmy as you want. It doesn't matter. It's your plugin. You could do whatever you want. But the other thing that would be really nice is if servers could have their own scripts, which are then transferred to the clients. That way servers can kind of basically make their own flavor of the game.
Essentially, for like explain like 5 terms, we can have modded servers.
Essentially, yeah, mods.
Yeah. Like in
mods,
modded servers, but also for single player.
No, yeah, but
yes,
I'm referring specifically to the multiplayer portion.
We'll probably have 2 types of scripts. So one where anybody can have a script that runs on their client, and that just affects the interface. It doesn't actually change the game logic whatsoever.
So like WoW
and then
modding.
Yeah, and adding keyboard shortcuts, things
Cool.
like that, just to kind of help you play the game. The other type of script we'll have will be actually changing the game logic. So one example could be quite often servers want to kind of protect a certain area of the map and just only allow a set of people to edit that area and another set of people to edit a different area. Well, the scripting engine, with the scripting engine, you could write a script that provides that functionality. You then just put that script on the server, and then when clients join, the script is automatically transferred and it all just works smoothly.
Yeah, and maybe that could be implemented in such a way where you have a set number of people on the server, but you have like 2 areas that they can build in. Maybe half are able to build in one, half are in the other, and then it's almost like a little bit of a competition either side of the parks. Maybe that could be a potential implementation of it.
Yeah,
yep.
It has to be noted though that we won't stop accepting new features into the game. We might be more stringent in what we accept, because in the past we have accepted a few things that I found completely useless, but weren't really affecting things. But rather that's the I'm always the guys who say no, we're not going to implement this. I don't want it, or I'm basically always the one who brings the bad news.
We have to be conscious of UI clutter and too many options, and the options list ballooning to a size that you can't find what you're looking for and things like that.
Well, yeah, that's what I want.
It's all too easy to have too many checkboxes that just confuses your users.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the scripting engine can really solve. We can keep the game itself quite simple with the features that many people will use, and anyone who just wants one good example of what is now in the game is if you desperately want your handyman to mow grass by default, there is one guy I know who wants it, who protested against removing that. I don't know why. To me, it seems to be bordering on self-harm, but well, that will be possible via the scripting engine, and we're not going to police that. If you want to, I don't know, you can basically do anything. We're not going to say you can't. If you want to turn every guess into purple cocks or something, that will be possible if you definitely want to. So basically, and on a more serious level, lots of people want extra features, but not everyone wants the same kind of set. So, well, we will be able to cater for more people, but with basically still keeping a simple interface and not affecting people who don't want all that rubbish.
I just wanted to say real quick that for people who've been playing the game a long time, more stuff isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for newer players to the game, older UI is sometimes hard to wrap your head around if you haven't been staring at it for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
So
exactly, and that's what we must be careful of.
I'm just kind of responding to the statement in chat about not being able to understand menus. I think that some of us are jaded in the direction of already knowing all the menus. I know at least when I was a small child playing this game back in 2002 and earlier with RCT1, these games are easy, but someone who's never touched these games before, who maybe was born after the game came out, looks at it now and goes, is that? You know, like, what is that? How do I play this video game? And
I can't play OpenRCT2 as an example.
I can't either.
I can't make sense of the UI.
But not really.
Yeah, but that's because they have not kept a break on the number of features like we have, and the UI is really littered with little buttons. They also have a purpose, and I use almost all of them. But it's daunting.
It's daunting to kind of look at it and work out what's actually happening.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's like trying to build some IKEA furniture with the second half of the instructions on the basis that you already understand the first one.
This is the way I would describe it. It's like trying to build IKEA furniture with instructions with twice the number of steps, and half of them you don't need.
And it's for a different piece of furniture.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons I want to not merge that much and keep the UI as simple and keep the options as simple. And OpenRCT2 sort of address that by implementing a settings dialog with a tree structure, with search functionality, and something that was divided into 3 categories, which are all very high-tech solutions to a problem that should never exist, as far as I'm concerned. So really, I want to keep it simple because, well, perhaps the UI might be something people are not overly familiar with. I don't think it's really that difficult, really. In any case, the classic RCT games do expect a bit of thought from the player to be a bit on the ball.
Yeah.
I think they figure it out, really. If they can figure out that roller coasters can crash and that people will die, I think they can figure out the UI fine.
Next thing we got listed here, which I don't think we've hit yet, is new object format, right?
Yeah. So according to our roadmap, in 0.3, we're going to introduce a new object format. Now, this will not. This will be more for servers, because currently, although a headless server doesn't load the graphics, it still needs the objects from the CD or your Steam copy, as was mentioned earlier. What we want to do is bring in a new format for objects, which is the object without the graphics. Therefore, we can distribute those objects, and headless servers will be able to work without any copy of the original game. The new object format will be effectively just a text file which gives you the attributes of what the object is, what it does, its description, and so forth.
And also where to find the images.
Yes, if you're actually making custom objects, it will be a zip file which has that text file in it about the attributes of the object, and then probably PNG images. So it'll be really easy to construct new objects. You won't need a special tool to create them. You should be able to just write a simple text file which describes the object, put your images in, and put that in a zip file, and there's your object that you can load into the game. That is to say that you can't have custom tools which do that for you, but it will be a simple process for creating new custom objects, as well as allowing the vanilla objects to be updated if necessary, because I know there's some there's some vanilla objects that do have certain bugs, or they need various attributes adding to them, like boosters is probably one, whether or whether they need certain track pieces enabled. So it allows for that.
There's also the thing that they will. There's also thing that they, besides pointing to PNG images in the same zip file and pointing to a dat file with images in it, you could also point to G1.dat, which is the graphics file that comes with Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, or you could point to the graphics file of Rollercoaster Tycoon 1 directly using any vehicle or land or coaster sprites that are in that, and that's something that's not currently possible. You have to really extract and create a new object out of it, and not many people have done that. It's quite it's quite a bit labor intensive to do.
Just a real quick open statement to anybody watching. If you have any questions, just throw them into the chat, and me and Krutonium will collect them, and we'll answer them all at the end.
To help with the RCT1 integration, we'll be making extra object types. So we'll make a new object type for the terrain. So currently RCT2 only supports like 6, maybe 8 different terrains, 4 walls. In RCT1 you had a lot more. So the new objects will include other types of objects such as rules and terrains that you can use, and we'll allow those to be imported from RCT1. We'll also add another object type for music so that you can add as much custom music as you like, and when you share your park they will be referencing specific objects for specific music. That way you don't have to keep distributing your custom 1.rav, custom 2.rav with your park, and everyone can share the same music files.
Cool.
Nice.
Let's move down the list a little more here, I think. Is that the end of the whole new object format, including lots of code cleanup and everything? So are we finished there?
Yeah. Richard might
really
like to mention that we'll provide a website.
Cool.
Yep. What we plan to do is have a repository where you can share save games, scenarios, custom objects, scripts with other people. And with regards to scripts, we'll write example scripts so that people can base their work on that and sort of demonstrate how certain features work and things like that. But yeah, I believe the current plan is to have the URL as part of the website as part of the OpenRCT2.website site. There'll be a link down the bottom to repository or whatever you decide to call it. You'll be able to upload, download, rate, comment on custom content of all kinds. And any web developers, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Node, and .NET Core, those are the technologies we'll be using. Developers that want to help out with that, we will be very, very much appreciative of that. Get in touch with us on GitHub or Gitter, which we use to chat. All the links are on the OpenRCT2 GitHub page. Just say that, how can I help? And we'll gladly point you in the right direction. All contributions warmly received.
Okay.
Yeah. Finally, the point of the code cleanup. It's not really interesting for regular users, but it's the reason that we cannot implement some things tomorrow. Basically, there's before we can do all this nice stuff, we have to clean up lots of things. The code has gotten quite big. It's in some places it's hard to read. It's a bit hard to explain to people who haven't really written code, but and basically the reason you won't get those features tomorrow but only in a few months is that we need to clean up quite a lot of stuff, and that will perhaps also cause a few bugs along the way in refactoring, but eventually it's all for a very good cause, so yeah, hold on.
Awesome.
Yeah, probably a layman's term would probably be you kind of need to clean the room up before you put the new furniture in. That's
exactly.
Like
That's exactly what it is. Eventually, the room will also look better within, if you properly clean it up.
Clean it up and paint the walls.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, well, if you
Put all the
don't clean
framework and that
with
stuff in.
paint, it will be ugly. So it's in the long run, it should be easier to add stuff, but also should also have hopefully fewer bugs. Can't promise anything, but that's part of the aim.
Okay. Now, I think we're pretty much through everything, with the exception of what people watching and what people in the audience and players of the game can do to help. So real quick, I'm just going to say, spread the word on social media. Tell your friends. Summon old people that used to play the game back in the day and be like, yo, this game's not dead. You can bring new people to the game. You can point people towards streams. You can just randomly throw the website out on any form of social media you have. I'm not judging. And then we've got write articles, reviews, publish them, submit them to the press. Try and get bigger websites to pick this up, talk about it, get things on Reddit, point people.
A YouTuber.
Yeah, if you know a YouTuber, some guy with 2,000 subscribers, be like, yo, dude, make a video on this. Somebody who streams, get them to stream with OpenRCT instead of the original RCT, which I was trying to do to somebody the other day, and it didn't work. And she was very adamant about playing vanilla, which was sad. So
I've converted so many people that
Yeah,
were streaming
me
the
too.
original game.
Me too.
I was like,
sometimes
you
it
can
just
have
doesn't
this running at the right resolution, and they were like, seriously, how?
work. Yeah,
That's all it took.
windowed mode usually does it for me. But
Yeah, you just kind of count how many things that are solved in the new OpenRCT and just say, so I've counted 11 to 15 things that you've complained about here, and it's already fixed over here. Maybe make the jump, kind of thing.
yeah. The other thing you can do is go into GitHub and give it a star. Give it a star rating. I don't actually know how to do that, so if someone could explain that would be lovely, because I don't go to GitHub ever.
It's like giving a project a like. However, it causes us to rate higher, so we gain more exposure to other developers. So more
Yeah.
developers are likely to come to our and contribute codes to our projects. So
Gotcha.
you end up with more features or quicker implemented features and so on.
Because
It's
It's
more
a
people-
one-click thing, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
Just click
it
one button, it's done.
it kind of signal boosts the project altogether.
That's what I assumed. I've only been on GitHub to submit bugs. That's about it.
Yeah.
And then I think I already mentioned this, but streamers who use vanilla RCT2, tell them to give OpenRCT a try, because god damn it makes their life a lot easier.
Get with the times.
Yeah.
They
grow
also
up.
could use some of the Twitch integration stuff, have actual get people from their chat in there. There you go.
Yeah. And then I think that's everything. Is there anything else that we want to mention? I think OpenGL engine plus light effects. Ted. One thing I
Well, we did a survey a while ago, and that a lot of people said on that survey that they wanted the new lighting effects, as it was one of their most favorited features. And I do agree that it's it's something we really need in the game, because it's just such a big
Yeah.
change.
Just
Useful.
concerning these new lighting effects, for people who don't understand, don't understand what you mean by that. Like, what is this new lighting stuff you're talking about?
We can
I think
probably
you have
just
to
provide
see
a
it
link.
to really understand. But what it does is it makes the game look like it's at nighttime. So it darkens the map, but then it makes all the lamps and all the vehicles in the park light up and glow. So you've just got a nighttime park, but with lots and lots of lights that really brighten
I have a
up.
video of it I can share.
There's videos, there's pictures of it, and lots of people have tried it and they like it. But this was done as a separate branch from an old version of the OpenRCT2. It has been merged since, but there are some bugs with it, and it does not work as well as it used to. Unfortunately, we do not currently have any OpenGL or experts in the field of light blending, which is what's required with this. It's just something we lack with all the developers so far. So if there's anyone out there who is really good with OpenGL or doing any kind of fancy graphics, perhaps previous game programming experience, we could really do with your help in making this work again.
I can tell you this. I actually know the guy who made that personally. He's one of my moderators. His name's Jerome Stout, Twitch. And currently he's deep in game development. He made a game called Dinner Date on Steam. You can find it. It's like $5. It's been out for forever, but he's currently working on his second game and he needs to make a living. So he's coding around the clock working on that, and drinking wine. So when he's done with that, he says he wants to be able to get back into the project at some point. But until then,
yeah, we all of us do it in spare time, which is limited.
Oh yeah.
So no, I have every I completely understand that. Didn't know he was actually in game development, but yeah.
Yeah, no, if you need to contact him, just let me know because he frequents my chat a lot, or just like post on my Discord because he's in there too.
Well, I think we all heard everything we need. He is playing to get back, and that's the only thing we wanted from him to get him back into our game.
I'll bug him about it.
Yeah,
you can handle the wait.
Small thing, because I'm keeping an eye on the chat, and I see something that is asked every single month about
there he is.
can you add a shortcut key for this, or I don't like this shortcut key. Can you make it possible to change it? In Rollercoaster Tycoon 1, the very first iteration in 1999, it was possible to change your shortcut keys, and it still is. So if you if you ever have a request of changing the keys or adding a new one, first go into the options dialog and click shortcut keys and check if it's already there. Chances are it is. Especially most request is a way to close all windows. Shift plus backspace. So,
just saying.
I think he's been asked that a couple times. I thought it was all backspace, but I never use it. I always just hold down shift.
Alrighty.
Just delete and open
Or
CD.
backspace.
So I see Jero and just joined us in the chat. So hi.
They miss you, Stout. So I think that we've covered everything. Are we moving on to questions now?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's go for it.
go for it.
So first question we've got here is Nickman1233 that said, I heard adding custom messages was finished on Gitter from IntelOrca. I'm literally reading these. Any chance of that being implemented soon? Custom messages.
Okay, well this is the scripting engine. So I have actually implemented it in my prototype for the scripting engine. You can either go into the console and type create message, or you can do it from inside a script that you load, and that will add a custom message to the news ticker, which was something 8cars could do, I believe. I think a lot of people use that to kind of add a little initial message to their parks that they release that's shown at the bottom.
Okay.
Cool. So like, it's a little bit more customization possibilities for people then.
Yeah, and it'll just be, it's just a function that's part of our, it'll be part of our API that we will provide with scripting.
Awesome.
Alrighty, so Fog, do you want to get the next one?
Yeah, sure.
Let's just swap back and
Liam
forth.
Pie has asked the question, can you chuck in assimilate all RCT2 and trainer capabilities before 0.4?
Yeah.
So this is also part of the script engine. The script engine will basically run a Java virtual machine, so to say, that will allow you to modify things directly the way you want them. So think of that as a framework to implement your own trainers in game. And I guess we would have a way to distribute them. So with the JavaScript engine, with JavaScript engine allowing you to expose windows and events in game and modify objects, the in-game objects directly, you will have whatever you require to do your work.
Yeah. Also, another thing is we implemented most of I implemented a lot of it myself. I sort of set a goal to implement every useful feature. There isn't quite a lot in 8 cards per trainer that isn't in OpenRCT2 and is still useful. There probably will be a few, but we're not going to implement every single thing from 8 cards per trainer or Son of Beast, just the features that make sense and cannot be done. We also, in many cases, we don't implement exactly in the same way because we can do it properly. If you really miss something concrete and you think that should really be in the game, open an issue, and if not, forever hold your peace. Just nicking a quote of Blind there. So the answer in short is no, we're going to implement everything, but we're going to implement everything useful. And if there's something left, you can, as Michał pointed out, write a script, probably. And if you can't, report that as well.
Cool. And this one comes in from Max Hamburgers. It says, I know myself and other 3D artists would be willing to put in volunteer time to create 3D models if there was some kind of streamlined database.
No, I think that does link back to what you guys were saying about the website. Yep.
But
partly, I think that's a slightly different request. I get the feeling what they want is a list of what 3D objects we would want for the open graphic set, like what sort of sprites we would want. If that's helpful, we can put that together. If the 3D artist wants to say, I need something that contains this, and this, and then I can start work on it. If feasible, we can provide that. I'm sure we can sort that out.
I know Max Hamburgers also stated something about even just a Google Doc.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically my day job is writing specs for people to implement. So yeah, I'm sure I can probably knock something out.
Cool, awesome. Fog, do you want to get the next one?
Yep. Just I'll scroll back up. I think it's Undo. Is asking about the scripts. Is there any intention to make quite a bit of the logic into scripts so it can be easily modded? So what I think he's saying is some of the logic behind the actual items, rides, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
That's how I interpreted it as well.
Yeah. We won't actually be turning any of the current game logic into a script, but what we will do is add lots of hooks to the game logic so that you can hook onto those. An example would be, let's say you want some code to execute if a train crashes. Well, we could provide a hook that allows you to hook onto train crashing so that when a train does crash, your code executes and it will tell you what train crashed, what ride, etc. You can then do something if that happens.
You could, for example, probably prevent it from ever crashing. in such a way
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
wanted to.
The hook could be actually take a response as well, so that you could change the behavior of the event that's actually happened.
Yeah,
But-
like you could have it close the park just to get everyone out and kind of work out what happened, maybe, or just out of a certain area.
If you wanted to, yes.
Just
Yeah.
narrow down the potential bad rating. But like, just here's a kind of evil genius kind of idea where what if you could maybe kind of incorporate some of the I'm scared to say this in case it can't be potentially implemented and kind of get people's hopes up, but like, what if you could use tile inspector to say when the coaster hits this, you have that activate some animatronic items and maybe have something close to ride events.
That's exactly something you could have. You could add a script that says, if a train goes, like every second, just you could check if a train is near a particular tile and make something happen.
Yeah, and that will be a little bit similar to them. I think you have the little doors that the Wild Mouse coasters and the smaller tracks rides can go through. So it might be something a little bit similar to that as well.
Okay.
I mean, also on this, I mean, there are some things which I think might possibly end up going from code into script, because I mean, I know the Easter egg features which are currently in the game, I mean, they shouldn't really be in the code of the game. I would much rather see them turn into little scripts. And I think for any of the hooks that we make for into the PEEP related code, I'm not sure how we're going to do it yet, so that might require some thought. It might end up getting done in something else. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
Well, those would be in any case just small enough to test stuff with. Just like the feature for having handyman mow grass by default, or the explode cheat that Lewis, who appeared in your streams quite a few times, but that he introduced. You clicked it and it would randomly explode a few guests. Those are really quite small features that are really good test cases for to test if any hooks work, because we already have a feature that works, so you can simply compare it. You already know what it should do. So yeah, that's all things that could move.
Awesome.
And part of the reason we don't want to change, move the logic from the current C/C++ code to JavaScript is because of performance. It would have quite a heavy impact on performance. We are not using the V8 that runs Chromium. We are using the single file JavaScript engine that's easy to integrate, and we don't take all that much care about performance. So moving the logic code for 10,000 of sprites, 10,000 of objects in game would cause the performance to suffer.
Okay.
Yeah, in any case, C++ performs a lot better than JavaScript ever will. And also we value our sanity. So it will only be used for add-ons. We're not going to move too much to it.
Yeah.
No core
Yeah.
features.
So
No core features, exactly.
just on the back of talking about performance, I feel the next question might have been covered a little bit, but it is performance related, and that's from Humongo, and it's a question concerning, is multi-monitor even feasible?
Kenton?
Well, I mean, there was Kenton's answer, and then there's what I would think of as multi-monitor. But Kenton, you can do your answer, and then I'll put forward what I personally think of as multi-monitor.
Well, I mean, there's two ways that it could be done. The way that I do it, because it's the only way that exists right now, is I just stretch the game across all of my monitors, and then I put windows where I want them. However, the way that I think that he was maybe thinking more so was maybe having separate windows completely, possibly, for having a, like, having separate, like, that one monitor could show one part of your park, another monitor would show a completely unrelated part of your park.
If you think about it, you can actually do that right now, because you can have one window host a server and the other one would be a client, or have a headless server and just any amount of clients you want.
There's also the little used extra viewport feature, which is under the map button. You need to hold it. Nobody ever uses it, I think, but you can actually have that on a part of the park that's not a ride or something. You can also move the main view to it, or anything. So it's not really multi-monitor, but I guess you could employ it if you have a very big monitor, or of 2 monitors.
Okay.
But there are, or 3 in your case, it's also always Kenton that has the outlandish setups.
I have all of the outlandish setups, and I am not afraid to install weird operating systems.
Which is very useful for testing and experimentation. Someone says, can we make OpenRCT2 work on such and such a system? I might go, Kenton, have you got this around? And you'll probably go, yeah, I'll install it. And it's really useful for finding bugs and expanding
useful.
compatibility.
It's useful, but sometimes it's disastrous.
Going back to the question about multi-monitor setup, this touches on the performance subject, and the rendering code is actually the least performance right now. Well, maybe not exactly least performant, because it's quite performant. It's just that it takes a humongous amount of time to process all the rendering to the screen. So we are working towards featuring multi-threading for rendering. This would speed up, at least twice, depending on the amount of cores you have. It would speed up at least the rendering part of OpenRCT. There is not much else we can multi-thread, because the logic has to be purely single-threaded, but rendering would surely benefit from that. Actually, the game itself is designed to draw in stripes of 32 pixels. So the amount of work is the amount of work to parallelize is trivial. It's just that there is a shared global state that we need to work with, and we will eventually fix that.
Cool. Alrighty, next question we've got here I think was pretty much already covered, but we can hit it again just for the sake of it. And that's didgeridoo player, and that's in a survey result posted on Reddit. Users picked nighttime and effects as a feature that was looked forward to the most. That was 11 months ago. When can we expect night lighting as a feature to be worked on further?
Soon.
Whenever your room gets back. That's. I'm afraid it will boil down to that. I don't think any one of us has really understands how it works.
No, not that lighting code. That's
something else.
Yeah,
Magic.
We need the whistle back.
We sometimes indeed have contributors who know more about certain parts of the code than we do. Jeroen was one example. There's also one new element design user X7123M3-2.
He understands more about everything than
he's saying much better than I think most of the people here behind me.
Yeah, well, the thing is, he implemented the cheat that allowed you to have 255 cars on the train. He also managed to create.
It was discovered by accident, actually.
Yeah, but he managed to do that. He also engineered code to detect which sprites a data actually had, not what it said it had, because most would just flat out lie about what track parts it could handle.
So to quote one opinion about his contributions to the code and to overall community. He's the single person at the exact intersection of people with enough skill to build the parks and to want to build the parks, and also to delve into the code. So when he wants to create a specific park, a specific ride, he will be stopped by nothing in terms of inspecting what features are available at his disposal.
They'll make it work, essentially, kind of.
Yeah, and if the result's purgeable.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next thing we've got on here is from Sims, and Sims says, I don't play OpenRCT2, but I understand that first downloaded objects the server to first download objects that the server uses yourself. Is that true? Is it possible to enable downloading assets directly from the server? This is already a thing when you download your server.
Yes.
Like boom,
yeah, that already happens.
That's why I drop frames every time.
You have to differentiate between various objects. We need to keep checks if the object that is requested by the client is part of the vanilla game, and we do not distribute them. We prevent servers from ever sending them, because that would cause the vanilla game to be spread around, which would basically be an illegal copy. But for all the custom objects that are integrated into Park, we take a delta snapshot of what the client has and what the server needs to host this object. And we send out we export the map, the SV6, together with only the objects that the client is missing. So we stream those out, and the client has them installed. So the next time you reconnect to the same server, if it's running the same map, you won't be downloading any new objects, and the map will only be like 100 kilobytes big.
Yeah, there's also the thing that besides that we cannot distribute RC2 is that it's pointless. You need at least to have the very least you need to have the base game, because otherwise OpenRC won't even start up. At least not the client. There's only the problem with the expansions, because they are official objects, but not everybody has them, and many servers do require them.
Sometimes they require them, although they are not used, and I hear the quality of them is
suboptimal, I would say.
It's they're abysmal. I already mentioned we fixed several, because
that's probably a better description.
There's anyway, the artwork does not match. There's no QA. It is littered with mistakes. So we fixed some of them. But anyway, that's I would still recommend getting them, even though they're crap.
Yeah, get them.
It's interesting content to have a look at.
It's not that expensive. I mean, you buy RC2 with all the expansions for a few quid. You can't even get the base game easily anymore. So just buy them. That's what I should recommend. And
they're available on lots of places. You can get them on
Steam, GOG,
on Steam,
or in the bargain bin of your local shop.
Every so often, the triple thrill pack goes on sale, and it's $3 or so.
Yeah, it's easy to come back. We're going to be putting together like a getting started guide that will go on the website as well, which will take you through where to go to buy the game and how to set everything up. And if you're on a non-Windows platform, extracting all the objects, that will be going up very soon to help you get started easily.
Cool. And it's essentially more Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, and it's kind of interesting to have a look at. I don't know if you guys saw that the new maps are kind of a fresh take on some of the challenges that the other ones applied for, and there was that one kind of GIF. I think it's a European map where someone went into that and then removed the British flag, and it's just like, oh. But
I forgot you did that, but it was beautiful.
It was beautiful, and it's more roller coaster tycoon. That's kind of my sales pitch of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we've got one question left, which is from Didgeridoo Player, which is, can we look forward to custom music on multiplayer? And if anybody else has any questions, plop them into chat now, and we'll run through those.
Kind of last call.
If we get the new objects sorted out and have custom objects that contain music, then they will work like any other object and will be transferred via multiplayer. Could be a problem with the size of them. I'm not sure how we're going to store the music. Music can be very large, so you don't really want to join a server and then download a gigabyte of music.
Well, probably
We'll see how it goes.
Probably Sport Flag, then Rolling Star will finally be happy.
Well, we could just ask the user when they connect, hey, do you want to download X gigabytes of music, or do you just don't want to skip that?
And
Can I
it'll be
just
from a
say-
central server as well.
Yeah.
Can I just say that this sounds like it's going to turn into the Trackmania nightmare that is custom music and Trackmania.
Oh, dear.
So you go in and it's just like the worst Miley Cyrus remixes. I've got.
Sorry, you kind of like, well, would you like to race to Trackmania, or would you like to race to Trackmania with hard Russian bass in the background?
Obviously, you want the
And
hard
I
Russian
think it's a
bass.
case of, you make that decision and then kind of each to their own kind of thing.
I love Trackmania. I've got a question which is a little bit silly from Freskins, which is common created content. Did anybody here watch the Devolver press conference at EA Game?
Yes.
And my head cannot support it. That's...
I would just like to say that open source projects are basically as close as you're ever going to get to common created content.
I don't understand. What was the question about?
It's a joke.
Yeah.
Devolver Digital did a hilarious conference, and
Bugging game
it's
developers.
worth watching.
It's an experience, I'll say.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very nightmare fueled. Looking for any other questions in here.
Pathfinding.
Pathfinding. I'm not sure if you. So I'll just take that. What about the pathfinding? Well, pathfinding is a can of worms. Another thing that I think none of us really understand well. It was something that worked relatively well for RCT2. There were some corner cases, but relative, but it works. It doesn't work as well in OpenRCT2 as it did in RCT2, or at least in many cases. There's a sort of
the pathfinding is an interesting problem. It was mentioned earlier in other streams by Ted that you don't want a perfect pathfinding, because people in the park are not perfect. They sometimes just want to wander and find what rides are there, and other people will use a map to some extent, and some people will still get lost even if they have map. And with perfect pathfinding, you cannot do that. You have to inject some fault.
But that's it's easier. It's probably better to have a algorithm that is sort of perfect and introduce some jitter into it for people that are tired or don't have a map or whatever.
That's how I think we'll end up doing it, to be honest.
Kind of make it robotic and then add some additional functions where.
But they'll find the exit eventually. That's the important thing.
Yeah. This guest will go over here, and it's like, that's pretty far.
If someone wants to work on that, is a developer who thinks, well, I can take that on. We would be very happy to see an implementation with one guy that sort of understand it. And it's
basically the more brains we have working on something as complex as a pathfinding, the quicker it'll get fixed, the easier it'll be, the less work individuals will have to do.
We still have limitations though, because remember we can't just add, extra data to all the guests. With
No, you have to
pathfinding
work within the
information.
constraints of SV6 until that format is replaced. Yeah.
Next thing we got in here is will there be a multiple object copy paste in multiplayer?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the feature has been promised by TED since I think it was 2014, and we have never backtracked on that promise. It's just there's currently it's not.
It's more of an extension to the tile inspector,
Yeah.
Anyone
Yes.
can go and extend it to add multiple tile selection and copy paste.
Yeah.
Probably would want something like track designs though, if you want
Yeah,
to copy
I'm
an
almost-
entire
Yeah.
building.
Wondering if he's talking about blueprints.
Yeah, I think it does sound like blueprints. I don't know if you played Factorio recently, but
Oh, God.
blueprints, so much fun.
Kill me.
I've never played Factorio.
Don't. It's a nightmare.
Is that nightmare or is it like crack cocaine?
Nightmare.
The
for me.
second.
Well, crack cocaine's a nightmare. But anyways, moving on. A question from
'Cause I've heard
Arbitrary.
both.
He said, how would I be able to potentially help with the creation of new graphics?
There is a repository for it.
Where?
There's a repo for it, and I'm sure that most of us probably would be willing to help you get what you need to make it happen. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. If you join one of the Gitter channels and ask.
like if you need a list of objects, we can almost guaranteed provide a list of objects.
Yep. And one thing that did come to mind is on any designs, I think there is Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 objects kind of collection. And it's a whole bunch of images that you can't really see what it is. But it does have pretty much a whole bunch of objects in there. And you can sort by A to Z, frequency, newest, downloads. I'll post that in chat just so that you can kind of have a look. But probably in the meantime, before you guys over at Open Roller Coaster Tycoon get something in place, it could be there just as a collation of these objects and these kind of community-made content.
Alrighty. Then next one is from Huey Umongo. I have no idea how to say your name. I'm probably butchering it. It says reposting question. Oops, we missed it. Could we get adjustable terrain cutter placement size so I can dump trees in a controlled manner?
So
I
like
think
the existing
that's
scatter
already
tool, but
an issue
scatter tool
reported
with
on
limit.
our on our issue tracker on GitHub.
oh, fine. So if it's there, then
I
yes.
think I recall it some time in the past being
Yeah.
requested.
I'll
Cool.
check, and if it's
I
not,
remember
I'll
from the
raise it as an
beginning.
issue for us.
It will likely be labeled with starter. By the way, if there are any developers out in the stream, we have a label called starter, and we label issues that are nice entry point to the engine. They are of varying level of experience, so it does not mean necessarily easy or hard, but it's a good entry point.
Alrighty. What's next here? This is Vision 1. It says, I guess you jumped over me twice for missing questions. That's not good. What about block sectioned mode on merged rides?
The plan was basically to allow multiple track types within one ride, because merging is a hack. Basically, there's nothing in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and 2. There's nothing better. But the plan was to allow to switch to a completely different track type halfway through. So you won't need. So it will be a complete circuit. It will support anything. So we will enable it that way. We won't enable it on the old way.
Yes,
if you want with,
I don't think it could even be done, even if we wanted to, because of the way merging works and how the code is written. It wouldn't be an absolute pain for us to make it work the block section mode on a merge track. It's not going to be. It's not easily done the way it is right now.
Next question is, why do so few peeps go to the ER building when they are nauseous? Or is that only in the old RCT2, and is that intended?
The code for going to the ER building is, it needs a lot higher priority. At present, it is so low priority. I know exactly the reason why they don't go. Just because as soon as they come off the ride, the thing which I'm more likely to do is go sit on a seat if they're nauseous. And then after sitting on a seat is if they haven't sat on the seat, then they get the opportunity to go to the ER. Really, it should be the other way around. It's been like that for absolutely forever, and it's not too easy to change it round. I seem to remember there's a reason why it's like that, but yeah.
Yeah, we encounter that often, things that look a bit strange until we hit a certain issue, and oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Would it be in poor taste to remove the guests saying they need to use a toilet with toilets every 2 blocks?
That sounds like exactly a thing you could implement with the script engine.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, the peeps pathing for a toilet? Well, let's cancel that pathing.
Never use the I think that's all of our questions here.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're good.
All right.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
2.5
Yeah, that
hours.
was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Not bad. Could have been
Same
worse.
time next week, I guess.
It's funny because the last time this happened was over a year ago. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing this again, to be completely honest.
I'd be game.
Probably not
Yeah.
next week, but whenever you guys have enough to talk about, just please give me more than like 5 days notice next time.
Well, if
2 weeks would be great.
If it's less than the 1.5 years, probably I will stick to the time, because
Cool.
I used up half of the podcast with everything I talked about, and I think I could have easily covered twice what I said. I had a few people screaming in chat to be a little bit less verbose. Quite rightly so. I have to
It's
say.
good to be thorough. It gets all the stuff you want to talk about across. And aim for next week, and worst case scenario, postpone and postpone and postpone.
I'll see you. Let's just say this. I'll see you guys next month. How's that? It's just once a month. But anyways,
I would be okay with
but
that.
yeah.
I'm not sure.
I just want to kind of express thanks to the time, guys. Like, it's interesting as someone who's played Rollercoaster Tycoon, had the bugs, and that you guys have finished and kind of fixed. It's interesting to kind of see that from your perspective, rather than being at the other end of the spectrum. And I think a few of these people in the chat getting their questions answered, and getting their concerns voiced, and getting maybe some closure on that. I think it's a really cool thing that you guys have let me be a part of today.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
It's also noted you can also users can also always join the Gitter channel, the chat channel. We have one for development, and we have one for where anything goes. Whether that's
And
help
one for Netherlands.
Yeah, we also have that. It's not very active anymore, but well, we have one for and then one where everything goes. And of course, you can always, if you want, if there's something that's things not right, you can also always open an issue. And something I have noticed is that usually are very prepared. I think very prepared to go into discussion, even if something has been discussed before. That's I have seen bug trackers where they usually stop reacting if you say something.
Yeah, which isn't fair, because people might not have seen it before or might not have been around. So, you know, even if it's something that we've said we're not going to fix that because, I will always happily explain it, and I'm sure that, you know, other devs will as well. Because
I've also done that in the case I say we're not going to implement this feature, and the person who requested was obviously not happy about that. He stayed polite, by the way. But we kept the discussion going for quite some time, and there are places where they just lock a conversation the second they don't like it anymore. And
yeah, we don't do that.
Well, I have done that. I think 3-4 times in 3.5 years or something.
Sometimes there's no choice, but we try to avoid doing that if at all possible. That's last resort, absolute last resort.
In any case, I'm here to make a nice game. I'm not here to turn people away or be rude to.
Exactly.
If it happens, if it happens, that's not intended. So yeah, I think it's sometimes people really like it. Sometimes you could almost say they sort of abuse it. But well, no, it's overall it has been mostly a very enjoyable thing to do.
But yeah, no, I just wanted to real quick close this up. So I just wanted to throw out some stats real quick. Thank you to the average of 60 concurrent viewers we had for the last hour and a half. So that's awesome.
That's really good.
And the fact that we were steadily holding 0.45% of the total viewership in the talk shows category, which is cool, considering there's 15,000 total people watching in this category right now. You know, we're holding up our own. We're ranked 20. That's like not bad. So cheers to that. And thanks to all of you folks in the chat who showed up and talked. And yeah, thanks to everybody from the OpenRCT dev team for showing up. Is there anything that anybody that's unrelated, anything that anybody would like to shout out or mention, other projects, things that people should go look at, or on topic related, anything?
Just one thing, did we mention the new title sequence? Did we show that off, or is that that's not something we're doing here? I can't remember whether we did that or not.
I don't think we mentioned
title sequence.
I don't recall it being mentioned.
Well, there's one surprise. Woo!
Is the surprise that we're going to show the title sequence at the very end of it, or?
There will be a new title sequence for 010, courtesy of Space K, I believe 531. Apologies if I got your name wrong. So yeah, it'll be a surprise when you get 010. Have a look at the new title sequence. I've seen it. It's great. It's it shows off the features that you can use, and shows off some pretty nice park design. So yeah, something to look forward to for you.
The plan was to have the release done before the stream, but we want to be doubly sure that there are no bugs. There are no known bugs that we could have prevented.
Yeah, there were
so
quite
it will
probably
happen over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And just while it's on my mind, to signal boost the OpenRCT scenario projects, where essentially you guys want people to kind of build some maps for the campaign. Is that
yeah, that is my project. If anyone out there in Chatland would like to have a park included officially with the game at some point,
make it.
Come talk to me. Make a park.
To that dude.
I believe there's a post on the RCT Reddit about that as well. Krutonium,
yep, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually stickied at the top of the Roller Coaster Tycoon subreddit right now.
That sounds right. So go check that out. Make a submission.
There's also a thing. This is about officer scenarios.
CSO only.
Yeah, I want that in more cases. That will be a thing of the future, but eventually I want to have official scenarios, some official extended objects. They all have to be high quality, but just a few things that people really should install on top of their existing Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 installation and really make the game a lot better. Which, you probably will see that at some points, but if it's 2018, that's early. That's the kind of timescale I'm envisaging. So, well, we'll see.
Cool.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
So yeah. Another thing is, if you guys have come to the stream and haven't followed BlindiRL before, do it. Blind's really good at management games. He does Planet Coaster. He's also picked up a few new, I think, 4X and Space Sims. And last but most important, I would say, is on Monday he does multiplayer Mondays with OpenRCT, which is always in the new development build in the branch, and at least tuning in to see some of the cool things. At least tuning in to see the cool things that Blind and the people in the server are building.
I mean, we're no new element, but we try and bring new people in. So that's kind of the goal, is to like try and keep, the level of detail higher, but at the same time, like if someone wants to go build spaghetti in the corner, that's fine.
Well, that's okay, because what NE does is one way to play the game, treat it like a canvas and paint it full. But the Rollercoaster Tycoon 1 style with just terrain that's a bit hilly and some coasters and trees that go. There's several ways to play the game. We're not going to dictate anything, and above all, it's meant to have fun. That's really the most important thing. So yeah, it's all good.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
And yeah,
that's the great thing about Rollercoaster Tycoon. There are so many different ways to play, and you've got so many different things you can do with it, and that's one of the things that I have always loved about the game. Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to.
No, it's fine. Above all, just keep an eye on OpenRCT and keep patching, keep updating, keep submitting bug reports, and keep the project alive and keep telling people that it exists. Damn it.
Yeah. Go up to random people on the street and it's like, have you heard about
Have you heard the good word of our Lord?
Yeah. About the Lord and Savior.
I'm not trying to start a cult here, but
too late.
Well, you might have inadvertently done so.
Do you have a computer? You should have OpenRCT on it. There we go.
I know for some of you guys, it's getting pretty late here, so we should probably wrap up here. To anybody watching live, I'm going to be streaming in about an hour. I need to go get some food. And to everybody else here, I'm going to be taking the stream off in a few seconds. And yeah, that's us, I think. We're all good here. We're all done?
Cool.
We're all done?
After party.
No final thoughts? Okay. I'm going to probably throw a host at a friend of mine. So if you guys want to go yell at him, that's fine. No, that's also fine. Thank you very much to everybody who's tuned in. And I think I speak for all of us when I say have a good night. And
yeah,
don't
Take
kill
care.
too many guests.
Yep.
And welcome.
Thanks for watching.
They're a finite resource.
What, the guests or the bones?
Why not both? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.